Today, ladies and gentlemen, following us, Project Peak Performance is bringing to you Dan Todd. Dan runs a phenomenal Facebook ads campaign business. He is in business with some major names across property and the wider world of business itself. Dan has faced some real adversity in life, and he will share all today. So, Dan, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, just got back from being down south yesterday in London. Being a northerner, I very much prefer the greenery and the trees and the peace and quiet to busy, noisy cities. So yeah, glad to be back up north, back home.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I'm joined, hosting this episode with Dan. I'm joined by Dave Gibbons. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Excellent. Ready and raring to go?
Yep.
Superb. So as I said at the beginning, Dan has got a really interesting story to tell. But Dan, first, I want to start a little bit around something you've shared offline and a little bit publicly around your upbringing, but primarily how things began for you in terms of the adversity you've had to overcome. I think that's a really, really good place for us to start, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. So up until I was 12, I had a fairly healthy, normal life, really. Working class family, so we weren't hugely well off, but we got by. Health wise, I was all good apart from asthma and things like that. And then suddenly, after my 12th birthday, I started to get unwell. And after some investigation, turns out I had a rare liver disease, which at the time, the statistics was about one person in the country gets diagnosed with it a year. And I guess back then that was my year. Usually, the disease can be dealt with medication. Unfortunately, mine was very aggressive. So literally, the symptoms showed early January, and by mid-March, I was half my weight. I couldn't hold anything down. I was in Leeds Hospital, which is very far away from my hometown of Scarborough, but they were the closest that had liver experts in. And yeah, they tried everything, but it was too aggressive. So I was dying. So literally the Sunday evening, the experts came in and just sat down. I was like, your best chance at a normal life, not just surviving, but just being able to go back to school. I was only in year 7 then, so I'd barely really gotten started with life. Best chance of getting a job, getting a house, getting married, have kids, all the things that we quite frankly take for granted. My best chance of all of that was a liver transplant. So I was put at the very top of the waiting list because, as I say, it was very aggressive. I didn't have long to live, and thankfully 7 days later, one came up, and had a liver transplant, and then there was a long recovery of a good few months to put all the weight back on, learn how to walk again, learn how to do everything normal, and just try and create a normal life. But since then, that's always been my driving force. As I say, we all take all that for granted, all the boring stuff. Oh, going to school, get an education, get a job, all that kind of, boring stuff. That's what drives me. And 20 years this year later, I've got all that. Plus, got my own business. Had our first child this year. So, difficult time 20 years ago this year, but that kind of stuff makes you who you are, really. So,
100%. I must admit, you sharing there was a piece in amongst what you just said where you didn't have long to live, and then the journey that you went on. That I knew you'd shared before with me that you had life-threatening illness, but I didn't know to the degree or the severity. And it's actually made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up with where you've shared that story. And it's actually a little bit humbling to listen to you say. We take it for granted, right, Dave? We take a lot of what Dan is now enjoying. We take day to day for granted.
Yeah, we do, and it's amazing. One of the things I picked up on there, a thought that popped into my head is the worst time equals the best opportunities. So sometimes you find, well, I've always found personally the hardest things that I've been through in life that I thought were like shit at the time and like what's going to go on here and my world's ended and everything else have always turned out to be the best blessings, I suppose I could say, because they're real like head shakers and eye openers, and it's like, wow, okay, I think I really needed that. Maybe I needed that to give me the fuel to go where I'm going forward, and God knows what would have happened if that traumatic time didn't happen. Maybe your life wouldn't be what it is today. But yeah, wow, big stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's fair to say at this point in time, just on that first section of your life, if you like, that huge upheaval, that would be for a lot of people enough to kind of go, wow, life is short, right? But then talk to us about what happened a few years back, Dan.
Yes, so a few years back, 2020, during the early lockdowns. So I've started my own business about a year before then. Great timing on my part, starting a business with literally a few months of savings to live on just before a pandemic. But anyway, that's hindsight for you. And yeah, it was July, August of 2020. Now, I didn't know at the time, I was being stubborn, to be honest, that the symptoms were showing for months, but I ended up having a heart attack whilst walking to the doctors, ironically. I didn't know the heart attack at the time. I was 29. Like, who imagines having a heart attack at 29? Like, I just thought it was just something else. And being a very anxious person as well, the last thing I like to do is draw attention to myself. So I did my best to keep walking along the street to the doctors whilst having that, because I don't like to draw attention and appear weak in any way, shape, or form. But so that was an interesting barrier, completely unrelated to the liver stuff, and just another reminder of how important life is. And I remember a couple of days later, listening to the Greatest Showman soundtrack, in hospital, thinking about what I could achieve with the business and with the family, instead of focusing on the fact that happened, and it would take me a year to get over all the fatigue from that. They put a few stents in my arteries, so it should never happen again. They don't know why, by the way. Completely random draw, rather me than anyone else, because as Dave rightfully points out, those events make you who you are, and I really wouldn't have it any other way. It really does make you a better person. But yeah, it's just so important to just hold on to what is so important to you, which, as I say, goes back to literally 20 years ago when the liver expert sat me down and was like, right, the best chance at a normal life. And that's all been fulfilled this year by having our first child. Got married a couple of years ago, bought a house a couple of years before then. So everything that I've literally, it sounds a bit odd, but as a 12-year-old boy, everything I dreamed of had finally come true. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that transplant 20 years ago. I would have literally died within days, weeks, if that hadn't happened.
Love that. It's like almost like a miracle story that things were caught at the right time. And now I think the share that you've just given there, everything you've dreamed of, wife, house, having a little one, the fulfillment from that, it's just beautiful to hear. It's beautiful to hear that someone's been able to be given that life-changing opportunity, quite literally, and you're living it and you're breathing it, and every day you're grateful for it. So it's fair to say, and I think the audience will probably be listening in thinking, crikey, this guy's like a walking, talking miracle. It's fair to say that you've had some serious setbacks, but the way in which you've embraced them, the way in which you just articulated it just then is, they've made me stronger. They've, even down to sitting in the hospital listening to the Greatest Showman soundtrack, which, by the way, one of the best films ever made.
Absolutely. Love it.
Love listening to that. If ever this is a little side note for me, if ever I lose sight of what's really, really important, which similar to you is my family, I listen to From Now On.
Oh, amazing.
That's like my trigger song to James, get your head right.
100%.
But for you, you've gone through this adversity. You've then decided to set up a business, which for a lot of people is a bold move in and of itself. But not only have you set up a business, you also are in business with some major names. So talk us through that journey. You say you launched this business just pre-pandemic. So talk us through that journey.
Yeah, so after I got back to school, barely got my GCSEs, barely got into college, barely got decent A levels because my health was still, not great. It was very up and down. Same with going to uni, and then finally got a basic job in marketing. All that was difficult as well because I after I returned to school after being out of school for a year by that point, leading up to the transplant and recovering, I had very bad social anxiety because of how I was treated on my return. which has always kept me back, which has been very personally frustrating as well. Because on one hand, I want to make the most of the fact that, you know, I've had second, third chance at life. I should be making the most of it. Equally, I've got this silly thing in my head that's holding me back. I'm managing to control it an awful lot better now. But yeah, I've always had an interest in marketing. And the fact is, I feel like I'm indebted to the world, you know, a bill I can't possibly pay. And, you know, I have these natural skills and gifts in marketing, digital marketing and Facebook ads that allows me to, yeah, help businesses of all shapes and sizes grow, generate more money, revenue, profit. But also in doing so, I connect those clients with people that they can help. So they make money and they help people. They have a greater impact on the world. Everybody wins. And that's what drives me as well. Yes, obviously all the family stuff as well, but I need to give back to the wider world. And, you know, I was only, I think my marketing career was like probably 6-7 years before I went self-employed. And I went self-employed mainly because, you know, I could only serve one business at that point when I'm employed. You know, the person that's you know, paying me every month is who I serve. Whilst being self-employed, starting a business, I can now help, you know, dozens of other businesses. Each of those businesses, each of those people help hundreds, thousands in many cases of other people that have particular problems, whether it's professionally or personally. And therefore, I am indirectly having such a greater impact on the world than if I just stayed, you know, employed and just helped one business. And as a side note, quite frankly, I'm also really bad at taking orders. So being my own boss has always been an ambition as well. But yeah, it's about that impact, which is why my business is called Impactful Marketing. Yes, we'll help you to grow, make money, get all the customers and clients you want, but we want to work with businesses that also want to impact the world as well and help everybody in that chain and just, you know, give back as much as they get. And that's very important to everything that we do.
I love that. I love that. There's like a thread that runs through the center of you, and it is about the impact that you can have on the world because you've been given the chance. I don't know whether you took the same way from that, Dave.
100%, mate. Yeah. I just thought, wow, I actually wrote it down. The moment he says give back, I thought, wow, that's really strong, that giving back. And then to articulate how you see that happening within your remit, your lifestyle, everything else. How can you do it within your certain set of circumstances? And you've found a way to do that, and not just benefit other people, but benefit yourself as well at the same time, so that everybody wins. I love that. You know, a deal for me is only a deal when both sides walk away happy. And if one of them is, you know, not so happy, I'd rather not do it. And I kind of feel that you're that type of guy, Dan. And yeah, so to have that and to have that as the fuel behind the driving force. It's not money. It's not to benefit me. It's not to do this, that, the other. It's, you know, if I can do this, it's going to make me feel good. And if I'm feeling good doing something that I love and I get paid for it, then wow, it's like, you know, the holy grail that you found there, Dan, I think, mate.
Absolutely. I'm always talking about how, you know, I'm very blessed to have that skill set that I can apply to multiple businesses and help them to grow. You know, my last employer before I did go self-employed is a client to this day. I helped him to grow his business. I was his main marketing guy, learned Facebook ads, and that propelled his business. And we're still running ads for him. Literally today, we're running ads for him and helping his business to grow and grow, but also serve literally tens of thousands of people in the property space. But yeah, very, very, very blessed, very, very, very honoured to have what I have, and just trying to make the most of it. Because as I say, I do feel like I just have that. It's an unwritable check, like it's an unlimited amount of. You can't put a price on it. But also this year, it's just propelled even more because not only was my life saved this year, my wife gave birth to our first child, Tristan. He was 2 months premature, so it was a very stressful time. And now he's healthy and he's doing amazing. So not only was my life saved, but then, a new life now exists because my life was saved. So just even greater, just unbelievable. I can't describe it, but every day that I have, and there's no reason why I won't live as long as anyone else, despite all the circumstances. But whatever happens, need to make the most of that. Otherwise, I literally wouldn't be able to sleep at night, quite frankly.
I love the way you look at life, Dan. I love the way you look at life.
Yeah.
You said something in the middle of explaining kind of that business journey, and it was about the impact of having your surgery, taking time out, the way in which you would then receive back, you develop social anxiety. The big question for me, and I think a lot of our audience, you're a self-confessed introvert. A lot of our audience will sit on the fence along the line of the spectrum of introvert, extrovert, but everybody has some form of anxiety, insecurities in them somewhere. The thing I really respect about you is you're happy to speak about them openly. And the other thing I love about you, Dan, is the fact that not only do you speak about them openly, but you almost run towards them. You're speaking on stage. Now, I would be, to the outside world, probably deemed a bit of an extrovert. Internally, not so much. I would struggle to do what you've done recently, and that is go on stage in front of a group full of people and deliver so brilliantly. How do you do it?
I just focus on my reasons why. So, my family, my wife Kirsty, baby Tristan, our dog Yuki, and also the fact that because I need to, it's in my bones. I need to give back, and I can't help people if I'm too scared to talk to them. But yeah, it's absolutely not easy. The next one is in November, talking at Expert Empires in front of 500 plus people. That is the biggest challenge by far. I haven't started losing sleep over it yet, but time will soon come when I do. But yeah, I need to push against it. And quite frankly, when I first got that social anxiety, like, during secondary school, college, university, I did let it hold me back for an awful long time. And I'd go as far as to say I would almost hate myself back then, because on one hand, I shouldn't have even been there. I got a second chance at life, and yet I was letting silly thoughts in my head, because most of it was just rubbish. It's just based upon, just silly thoughts in my head. Like, I used to imagine every conversation I would have with someone, and then I would fixate on something that I thought I said that might have been viewed as stupid or just not viewed nicely. And I'll think about that all day until I'd have another interaction with someone, and then I worry about that. And I wouldn't be happy if I didn't have something to worry about. And that held me back for years. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. But yeah, I need to push against it, because I need to give back. And also I enjoy it as well. And you mentioned the fact I'm very open about, being a geek, but also being an introvert, etc. And yeah, what I found is, people do like me for who I am. I'm not going to pretend I'm, very, very big and bold on stage with all the confidence in the world. I am who I am. And for a long time, I was ashamed about that, which led to, all the anxiety issues as well. But I also see it now that because of how I am, I can help people better. If I wasn't an anxious introvert that was always thinking, always worrying, I wouldn't do half a good job for our clients. I wouldn't have trained our team to do as good a job with our clients, checking our ad campaigns literally every 30 minutes, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, all that care and worry just is a benefit. So it's just about seeing the positives in even the negatives that we may have, and just trying to make the most of it, and just push through, really.
It sounds like to me, and I don't know whether you agree, Dave, but the thing I've taken out of a lot of what you've shared, Dan, is you take a situation that might be deemed negative or some form of adversity, and you look at it and go, okay, how can I make this better? How can I channel it? How can I harness it?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. At the time, when in hospital and after I had my heart attack, and after my liver transplant, there were difficult days and weeks where I just wanted to give up. I didn't want to get out of bed to learn how to walk again when I was 12 years old. Don't get me wrong. I'm not always entirely positive, but deep down, you just got to focus on the future and the opportunities that you have, and just realize that it's not going to be like this forever. You might be going through pain right now, whether it's emotional or physical pain. That's not going to last forever. You need to focus on what your life is going to be like when that ends, which it will, and just focus on that instead of focusing on the now. And it does make me really sad, because there was a lot of people that I knew from all my many hospital visits over the last 20 years that go through similar things, and they do take it like, oh, God or the world hates me. They've chosen me to go through all this stuff. And I do kind of get that. And I definitely used to feel almost like, I was picked out as the unlucky one. But you can't we're still alive. You can't think that way forever. And if you do, it's a wasted opportunity. Like someone else could have had the liver that I had if I spent the last 20 years moping around and just, not being happy with what I have. So yeah.
I love that. I love the fact of, again, going back to the worst of times equals, the best opportunities. And I've never had the privilege of sitting down and speaking to somebody that has taken positives from their anxieties in the way that you have personally. And I coach people. I talk to a lot of people around this subject, and to use it as a kind of superpower, if you like. So it's like, okay, I know what the bad sides are with my my anxieties, what I'm saying to myself, this, that, and the other. Most people kind of end it there. Whereas what you've done is you've gone, okay, well, this is my chips. This is what I've got. Here's the negative stuff that comes out of that. But what's the positive what's the positive stuff that comes out of that? So there's a bit of an OCD there where I'm really on to make sure that every single bit within my control is going to be perfect. Now, I wouldn't have that drive and dedication and eye for detail potentially if I didn't have the firing gun in the background telling me X, Y, and Z. So the point I'm trying to make here is to go, I think, a lot of people suffer in silence with anxieties. It's one of the biggest things, actually, to put your head in the sand and hopefully it'll blow over. Other routes are to obviously go and seek some help, which I'll ask you about shortly, but certainly to start to look at the positives that are coming out of this and how you can utilize those positives to make this negative livable, maybe even enhance your life somewhat. So, would you be the same person without them? Well, that's a definite no. Whether you'd be bigger or better or worse or less, who knows? But certainly to take that viewpoint is a very, very, very healthy way to look at things and very refreshing to hear, because I've never heard anybody say that you've said there. So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you. Sorry, Ken.
Spin-off question off the back of it, and I think this is a very relevant topic because there will be lots of people that listen, as I said earlier, that do have either social anxiety or they suffer with anxiety generally or whatever it may well be. What would the one piece of advice? Have you received advice, support, coaching, or what is the one piece of advice you would impart on them in order to do what you've done, and that's harness it and use it as their strength?
So for me, I wish I knew how I was able to, get to where I am today without that anxiety. Like, I wish there was a formula, do X, Y, and Z. I can't remember the transition, and it was definitely up and down. But I think the main thing was being data driven. So, anxieties, we come up with so many different thoughts, views, scenarios in our head that's just absolute rubbish. You need to focus on, what the reality, and the reality will help pull you out of that anxiety if you sit down. So if you're anxious or you're depressed, you'll have negative opinions. For example, it could be something like, oh, I've been ill for the last 2 weeks, or I've not slept for a whole week, or some generalization. But actually, when you think about it, you have. It's probably not the best example I can think of, but it's just about being grounded to the actual reality to pull you out of that anxiety, because 99.9% of that anxiety is irrelevant, it's wrong, it's not serving you, and it's just completely inaccurate. Yeah, so for one example, my anxiety started when I came back to school, because some people, bear in mind, I was in year 7, year 8, very, very young teenagers, that they see the world a lot differently than I did. And they were not necessarily saying nice things. They didn't fully understand the reality of things. And what was I going to say? Sorry, I'm just trying to keep emotions out of it as well, because it is a very emotional thing to go over. But yeah, basically what people, maybe 1 or 2 people said some nasty thing, and I sort of like, oh my God, everyone's going to think the same about me. But when you actually, and then that means you avoid everybody. because you're worried that everyone else is going to think the same about you. But if you actually ignore that and try and talk to some other people, you'll find that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, I wish I had a formula. I wish I could be more precise in what works. I still don't know to this day. What I do know is it's a constant battle. Like there isn't a clear solution. It's a lot better today, but it's a constant battle every day. But yeah, there are benefits to everything. So another benefit of my anxiety is I'm very aware of everything going on around me, because I have to protect myself physically and mentally in particular. And that allows me to understand people around me, understand what they're going through, and just be more understanding, more appreciative, more forgiving than a person might be. So that's just another benefit as well. But yeah, with whatever negative, whether it's physical health, mental health, you just got to find that positive. It's not going, oh, it's awful. It's not all bad. We need to find something to hold on to, some positive. Otherwise, what's the point in being here? And because of everything that's happened, I understand that more than others may. But yeah,
I'd say it's a major strength from what you've been through, though, isn't it? So I think there's some. You said try to be more concise or have a formula. I think that's just how you think, though, isn't it? I've coined a phrase when we had a meeting recently, and I said, you're now, to me, you're data-driven Dan. Like, that's who you are.
Absolutely. I literally said that on stage on Monday in London.
You're welcome.
People were laughing. I didn't realize it was funny because it's absolutely true. But yeah, love it.
There you go. So your new stage name is Data-Driven Dan. You're welcome. But it's interesting that you said about you are very logical as a person. That's very obvious in the way you deliver your message and I suppose the work processes you go through. But and to coin a phrase, I'm not putting words in your mouth, and correct me if you feel I've gone the wrong route on this, but it's almost like some of the anxiety is connected to sensationalized thoughts. And so it's not just isolated to that, let's say, one person that made a comment. You've then gone, well, everyone thinks the same way. But then your logical side of you kicks in and says, well, that isn't factually true. And the reason I've shared that is it connects to my next question. And that is, do you feel that your circle of influence, the people that you've surrounded yourself with, have in some way then maybe helped with this uplifting confidence, the ability to speak on stage and to harness the social anxiety? Do you feel that your circle has helped?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, being able to work with so many well-known experts in so many different spaces, and that all started from my last employer, who's still a current client. He then recommended me to another person, so Nick James, Expert Empires. He then recommended me to another 5 experts after I delivered great results for a few months, and it just spread from there. And that definitely helps with the confidence as well. I often feel like I'm not worthy of the clients that I have because they're so successful and inspirational, and it's just me and my amazing team behind our screens doing what we do best. But yeah, having that support network, like, it's absolutely uplifting. So for example, last Father's Day, literally last year, I remember walking to my parents to give my dad his card and presents, and I got a WhatsApp voice message from a number I didn't have in my phone. Looked at the photo, like, hang on, that looks like Rob Moore of Progressive Property, the Progressive brand. Like, that cannot possibly be Rob Moore. It must be someone pretending to be Rob Moore. I listened to it, and it was Rob Moore. I was like, how the hell?
He's quite distinct. You know if it's him or not, don't you?
Absolutely.
If he leaves you a voice note, you know it's him.
Absolutely. And like the fact that he even knows I exist is just baffling to me. And yeah, just that absolutely made my day, made my week. And yeah, it does absolutely help with the confidence. Equally, being the data-driven person I am, and I still am anxious, but in a good way, because it allows me to ensure that I'd never drop the ball. I'm constantly doing what's right by our clients. Yes, it's exhausting. It cuts into our profits, blah blah blah. But it's about getting the best results for them. But also, yeah, it can make me a bit anxious because I need to make sure that I keep them happy, keep getting them great results, in case anything negative was ever said in the same circles, which of course doesn't happen, because I do make sure we get great results. but yeah, absolutely amazing. Like that Rob Moore story, just unbelievable. Literally, I remember it clearly, like it was yesterday.
And now you're managing his Facebook ad campaigns alongside a number of names that people will recognize. So I'm intrigued. Obviously, you're a busy guy. You run a business. You've obviously got a young family. You've got a busy mind. That's fair to say. How do you relax?
I don't really at the moment. When I do have the time, this year's been crazy personally and professionally, especially with baby Tristan coming along 2 months early. Like I thought I had 2 months to train my team up, take and hand over the business to him so I could, look after Tristan, look after Kirsty for a few months, and that just didn't happen. Yeah, in terms of relaxation, yeah, there's very little at the moment. Just being able to sleep is nice.
That's your relaxation.
Yeah, I mean, I do like when I do have the time, I play, video games, or I'll read, or go for walks, take the dog out for a walk. But right now, I feel like my focus has to be on either family or work. Like there's nothing else really that comes into it other than going to the toilet, eating, and sleeping, quite frankly.
Basic necessities then.
Absolutely. Because it all comes back to the fact, 20 years ago, having a normal life. So, some people would think I'm boring. Like, I've never been abroad. I don't have a passport. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm 100% taking the family to, Disneyland, etc. in the future. It's never been a priority. Plus, health-wise, insurance, etc. makes it difficult. And it's just never been a priority. Like the money you could have spent going on a holiday abroad, we could have put into the business or doing something else. So that will absolutely come. Right now, my focus is, growing the business as much as possible, helping as many people as possible, and then it's all about short-term sacrifice for the long-term, benefits. So yeah, not much in the way of relaxation right now, which I probably do need because I'll be ill for a couple of weeks. But half my team are away at the moment. Once has had a baby himself, so there's lots going on. So I'll relax at some point.
Dave, come on, intervene here from a coach's point of view.
Wow, man, yeah, you need to relax. I'm going to come over, pin you down, and make you get some sleep and put some nutrients inside, whatever it is that we need. But yeah, you've got to put that first. Yeah, no, do you know what? It's a story I hear. I've lived this story, as lots of people know. I'm not here to certainly be giving Dan advice. That's not my position in this place. But yeah, try and keep an eye on that. The way I see it, like I say, I've said this before in the past with regards to the relaxation. Obviously, we're trying to figure out here within this project, and the ultimate goal is what makes a perfect human being effectively in all aspects of the life, and balance definitely comes in. But the reason it's great to get, because it'd be great if everyone had balance in their life. And if we did, then there'd probably be no reason to have this podcast or project or anything else. The reason it's there is because everybody's doing exactly the same things. And we're all trying to find this ideal balanced lifestyle where the kids are running around, the wife loves you to bits, and I don't know, wants to have sex with you every 2 minutes, and your holidays are great, and the work doesn't give you any stress, and you're making 100 grand a month. Who doesn't want that? Everybody does, but it doesn't exist on a normal world. But yeah, to be hearing the stories of the adversity that you've been through, everything else, I understand the position you're in right now. I understand the wants, desires, the needs, and the urgencies to get these things done. But yeah, I couldn't sit here right now if I say, look, you've got to be looking in that direction to take some rest, because if you're not rested, the king and queen don't eat first, the kingdom will fall. That's the way I see things. So it's trying to balance that and get it all in. But what a story. I mean, like I say, listening to, we've not even kind of gone on too much onto the business side, but your personal story today and the way that you see life and the way that you orchestrate your life based on the chips and the cards that you've been dealt is phenomenal. And it's wonderful to see, really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're never going to get it 100%.
As we reach the
Don't
end,
worry about it.
Look, I was going to say, as we reach the end of the episode, that's a real reflection for me, is that, as you've said, Dave, we've reflected a lot on your background, Dan, but I think for our audience, that's probably the more powerful piece for you to share, in so much as what you faced and your mindset and your attitude towards adversity and the way in which you've overcome and the way in which you look at things and go, okay, that's an issue, but how can I be better? How can I use that as fuel to my fire rather than how can it be the blanket that puts my fire out, so to speak? And that for me is nothing short of inspirational. So Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing your story. Appreciate there was a moment there that felt quite emotional for you, but I feel there will be a lot of people that will really relate. So thank you ever so much.
Thanks so much for the invitation. Yeah, it's been amazing to speak to you.